Before we go or we try and break it up, I'm going to just request my panel to give a sense of this wired audience and what that means. Mr. Bhatia, can I ask you please to give us a sense of this wired audience or the customer mindset that we are hoping to address when we talk about solutions?
Good afternoon, everyone. Before understanding the demand and need of wired generation or wired customers, we need to understand their mindset. And to understand their mindset, we need to understand that how many type of these clients, these customers are there. There are basically three generations: baby boomers, then generation X and generation Y. Baby boomers used to be the largest with over 70 million people. But now we are not preparing for that generation. We are going to prepare for generation Y, which is which has almost crossed 78 million of people. And they are the current largest number of buyers on this wired media. So, and all of them has got a different need, all different expectations. So, before we enter into whether we are able to meet their demands or not, if we understand, we do our research, we understand their mindset, then we will be more successful in that.
Like you specifically did not stress on the word millennials. Just for our reference from this audience, how many would you classify yourselves to be in this whole generation Y category? For Mr. Bhatia, that's an important category. How many of you will classify yourselves to be in that? Or, get a sense of that? Yeah, no Gen Ys? Don't tell me you're all millennials. Or there's like one Gen Y. Gen X? What generation are you? Yeah, hands up, people, so that I can see. These lights are blinding, All right, like that's like 2-3% of our audience. You're not baby boomers for sure. So what are you, like millennials? Are all of you millennials? In your like 19s, 20s? It's a good mindset to have. So we have a very, very good audience here. All young people, good for us. You did not specify on that word millennials. And the moment we say wired, that's the word that everybody wants to talk about.
Okay, let me go more elaborately on this. So generation Y is the generation born between 1980 to 2002.
Millennials.
So those are the people, and I hope a lot of you must be there or not.
1982 ke baad ke, I don't think so. There were like 2-3 of them. I know back in the ushers there may be some, and some of the support staff from business world, they're all millennials. So they are, but running around and clearly not listening to me. But then you have enough Gen Y. Do you still want to give an answer? Gen Y, how many? Sanjeev sir is trying to get a sense now. No sir, nobody from Gen Y.
Nobody.
Yeah, baby boomers and Gen X.
Okay.
Oh dear God. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, we wanted to break this up in 3 specific points of communication, right? There is, especially when you're talking about smart hotels, you've already drilled the conversation down to people who are connected, who want to know what is the hotel providing, what is the extra I can get, so on and so forth. So there is the attract these people, so a pre-conversation that needs to happen. Probably the most important part of a smart hotel and communication conversation is during your stay. So when you are there, and then of course the post. Between this panel, we'll focus more on all of this, but specifically on the communication that is happening during the stay. So we have 3 hotel brands here, but before I even invite them, I'm going to request Avijit to just give us a quick sense. Avi, pre-present, post, right, between the 3. From a smart hotel point of view, if I wanted to prioritize, then let me ensure I meet the communication demand of this one phase. Which one would it be?
So yeah, see, I think right now, so firstly, I'll just take a preface from where we left off. So between digital natives and digital residents, so 1980, I think, like you correctly said, was the differentiator, the marking line between digital natives and then the generation today, more wired, less wired. I think there are people from both generations, all Gen X, Gen Y, baby boomers who are addicted or wired, as we say. Now, when it comes to the hotels, trying to capture these people through, before they come into the hotel, during their stay, and after. The first thing is that today I feel that there are almost equal revenue opportunities which are going to be created or are being created overseas between all these three phases. The easiest to do so far has been pre-stay, because through the OTA, through direct marketing, through various social media channels, that's the only thing that we as hoteliers know so far. How to make money while the customer is captive with me for 24 to 48 hours is something which I'm trying to explore. And I think there is a huge opportunity there, and it might be as much as the opportunity that we have in terms of revenue that we measure from a guest before he books in. So before and while he's staying might be equal opportunities in the very recent near future. And then after he goes back, so after checkout, how he can review your hotel, or how he can recommend you on social media channels where more people can come in and he can get more loyalty programs. Those will be another revenue opportunities. So that I think the last 3-4 years hotels have been struggling with the same, within the same ecosystem, saying, the fight was always between how should I get more of the OTA traffic and direct traffic. And I think finally, thanks to forums like yours here, we are now discussing that, we have the audience, the customer, the guest eventually becomes ours. So there's lots more that we can do later on as well. Coming back to your question, how ready are we for everything after that? Not even 10%, I think. So that's where communication needs to, and systems you need to come in.
But if you still prioritize, you're saying equally important, but let's just say that we tell over here to Rajat and Anirban and to Mr. Bhatia that, this guys, this phase, ensure you're getting it right. What would that phase be?
See, so obviously first, I'm sure Rajat and Mr. Bhatia would say first let the guest come in at least, everything else follows. So
Correct.
To get him in, the wired customer walks in. So see, the thing is, why is it that we call a home? Because as soon as we walk in, our Wi-Fi connects, my Wi-Fi recognizes me.
Yeah, absolutely.
My own channels come up and all of that. So when I go into a hotel, all of a sudden, there's a shock. Wi-Fi chalna band ho jata hai, and then I have to So if the hotel gets smart enough to recognize me as soon as I get into a hotel, that hotel becomes my home. So that needs a lot of ecosystem to be built around it. So I think that is the starting point. That is what needs to be built.
All right, perfect. I'm going to take the conversation to Anirban right now. Anirban, give us a sense. He's trying to say recognize your guest, right? Create that dialogue. That's one of the many demands I'm sure that people have. I request you to speak on both aspects, but why don't you just draw a picture for us? How much are hotels ready for that kind of consumer demand?
Right. First of all, I think to put this thing in right perspective, I would say we should say wireless rather than wired, right? Because right now we are not connected with wires, we are wireless. Now, another important thing that we need to understand is, when a guest checks in or gets into the hotel, there is a digital divide between the guests and the employees. I mean, when the guest was directly connecting with the employees or the hotel staff earlier, without the help of digitization, at that point of time, the connect was direct, connect was personal. Now in this era, when the guest is getting connected with the hotel, the staff is not equally connected, right? So there's a digital divide. Probably that is also compromising the guest experience. And third thing is, when we are talking about this whole experience, the digital experience, we are not taking into account what technology is going to look like 3 years hence, 5 years hence. We don't know. I mean, we know. I mean, there's this technology predictor called Ray Kurzweil, who has correctly predicted about 90% regarding technology future. And two of his technology predictions which are about to happen are Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. Now, how much the hotels are getting prepared to these two things? I mean, today when we are talking about these two things, we are just talking about Wi-Fi connectivity and just add-on to the overall guest experience. We are talking about just providing free Wi-Fi.
Right.
How much the hotel is really converting it into a superlative experience is what we need to talk about. And 3 years or 5 years from now, how much the hotel is going to get prepared to deal with that? We need to talk about it now, because it's not easy to catch up with technology with an infrastructure intensive industry like ours. So we need to talk about that as well. So whenever we plan a hotel, which is going to eventually come up in another 4, 5, 6 years from now, we have to take into consideration what might happen 3 years down the line or 5 years down the line while planning the hotel.
All right. So create experiences.
Right.
Essentially create experiences. From that point of view, again, you're opening the conversation to what are the things you must do in terms of, creating that right experiences. Wi-Fi, from what I hear you're saying, is hygiene up to. That you have to give anyway. And then after that, I think also wired audience means that as a connected consumer, suddenly everything has shrunk around me, right? The world has become a much smaller place. In fact, Rajat, you were mentioning that when we were speaking about this panel, and you spoke about something called last-minute market. Did I hear that right? Yes? So I want to come back to this whole point of experience, and I want to throw that open to the panel. But before that, about this connected audiences and the shrinking world of ours, what really does this last-minute market mean for us?
Okay, last minute market like the guest wired connected. So that means the guest is more aware now. Guest is always connected. So there has to be a parity between the rates that the hotels are offering. So currently this is an era where in most of the cities where the demand is less compared to the supply. So it's the consumer's market. So the guest is shopping till the last minute. So that's what I meant by last minute market. So what happens is guest is, there's a query that comes to me that might go to 3 other hotels for a piece of business. So I quote certain rate, I quote some rate, looking at my occupancy pattern and looking at the demand for that period. I will offer say rate X, and there are other 3 hotels, the same query will go to those hotels as well. They offer certain rates. So guest can pick and choose. So he's more aware. He wants his value for money. So our dealing has to be very, very transparent. So what has happened also because of this is because most of the hotels are in desperate need of business. So there's a lot of undercutting which happens. So which is not good for the industry. So that again, it's a thought which all the GMs have to sit together of that geographical region, and they need to come up with a strategy where the consumer is not taking the benefit of undercutting by all the different hotels.
Undercutting, huh? In our side of the business, in the marketing and agency side of the business, it's a terrible word to use in the sense that everybody does it and then everybody blames everybody else. But clearly in the hotel business also, you're right. I will definitely keep trying till the end, till I get. But is it not true that, and this I have again understood from my friends in BW Hotelier, that while people may be looking for rooms online, eventually when they actually need to make that call, they'll call the hotel and do the call versus booking it online?
They sometimes do that also. There are many smart customers. They will go and check your rates online, and then they call back the hotel. They know there's a commission part which is involved with the online booking. So they call up the hotels directly and try and negotiate a better deal.
Fair enough. So this has happened like on the pre part now. So on the pre, just pretty much getting your guy is the big deal, right? Let's talk about during the stay now for a little bit, which is where Anirban spoke about create the experience, right? I love doing this. Every time hotelier invites me for these things, I love asking everybody in the audience, how much are you happy about how well your hotel, wherever and whenever you're staying in hotels, understands your communication needs, right? And we always get great answers. I just want to get a sense from this audience right now, if you had to say you're thoroughly disappointed with the way your hotels understand you or your communication requirements when you are there, how many of you would agree? Thoroughly disappointed. Nice, nobody. Oh, actually no, 2 of them, sorry. So that's like a small margin. Like a little disappointed. A little disappointed.
But you're not talking to the millennials here.
Yeah, of course. No, I think they're still deciding where they are. I am thorough millennial. I'm 34, I'm a thorough millennial. So you can be whatever you choose to be. Yeah. But again, all of you, not disappointed. You're again, disappointed. So we have a 10%, I would say, who is disappointed, thoroughly disappointed combination. Are we then saying that all of you are extremely happy with the way hotels have understood your communication requirements the moment you're there? Just raise your hands if you're happy. Nobody is happy or unhappy. Do you guys stay in hotels at all? How many of you stay in hotels? Yeah, that's the problem. Everybody behind, can we ask people from behind to join us in front? They stay in hotels. What is your business, guys? You don't stay in hotels? Anyways, so just to get a sense again, people who stay in hotels, now tell me, happy? Happy with the way hotels understand you? Raise your hands. Somebody said yes. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's always the ladies who lead the conversation. Yes. Okay, fair enough. Got it. They're there. They're roughly happy, unhappy. Let's talk about creating experiences. What should we do so that they very vociferously agree that they are happy? What would creating experience, how do you marry communication to creating experience? They're two different things. Creating experience is literally the problem of these gentlemen. And somewhere, of course, also Dish TV, because you have to ensure you're getting it all right. You stop working and people throw stuff at them. But let's just see, how do you do it? How do you marry communication to create an experience?
See, like I was mentioning about creating a communication around the fact that I'm actually going to promise you a home-like-home experience when you come into my hotel. Everybody says that. Almost nobody does that.
Right.
In most of the hotels that you check into, except maybe a maybe a St. Regis or whatever, you do not, you check into the hotel, you call up the person. We've reached so far that he recognizes you by name. I say, yes, Mr. Arya, what can I get you? And I'm again repeating for the 20th time in the same year that this is how I want my tea and my coffee. And he very politely takes my order. Then he will knock at the door. So I'm now tucked in at 9 o'clock in my quilt and watching my TV. There'll be a knock at the door. And if he's forgotten sugar, he's going to go again for sugar and he'll knock again. So I still don't have a device that I can open. Some hotels have it, most don't. So personalization being the key. If you're saying it's a home away from home experience, then at home, once you come in and you're in your shorts and your t-shirt, you're watching your TV or you're doing your iPad, whatever you're doing, your people around you are supposed to understand your needs because they know you do this every time. And so the less you have to repeat yourself, the more you feel like home. So in that aspect, we're still very far away from. So the communication, that a home away from home experience works brilliantly if it's even 50% delivered.
All right, fair enough. Anirban, do you want to just kind of,
Yeah, to take a cue from Avijit, basically, I mean, that's what I mentioned, that there is a digital divide between the employees and the guests. So that needs to be bridged to create an experience. I mean, when we're talking about a digital experience, the staff or the employees are playing as much part in it with the help of technology. So that needs to be addressed. And of course, another thing probably what needs to be looked into is whatever we are planning to offer, it has to be planned at the planning stage of the hotel. Which is rarely done. Of course, there is a challenge because the technology is so fast changing. I mean, it's very difficult to predict what is the technology which is going to be available by the time the hotel comes up. So, but at the same time, I mean, I have always seen that few of the technology matters are always the last thing that are considered while planning a hotel. I mean, the basic things are put in place, but when it comes to the experiential part of it, many of the technology part is kept for the last minute discussion.
Rajat, tell us, what do you do about equipping your people? So that comes out to be a clear point, right? That to now bridge this gap, you have to first ensure that your people within the hotel understand or are equipped to be able to handle some of these requirements, to be able to understand what the guests are doing. What are you doing of that angle? How are you equipping your people?
I believe it's a training issue over here. Once the guest has checked into the hotel, then giving him an experience and making sure that he returns. What happens is during his stay there are many touch points. We call it, in our language, we call it touch points, wherein the touch points are where the staff is interfacing with the guest directly. Could be a housekeeper on the floor, or could be a room service ordered a server, or could be a restaurant server at the restaurant. So these touch points are captured with the help of technology, wherein we have certain softwares installed in all these respective areas, wherein guest preferences are noted, okay, along in his profile. So if a guest has stayed with me before, I will have all his profile with me. Not only a resident guest, for that matter. If a guest is a frequent diner with me, he might not be staying with me in the hotel, but he comes to dine with me very often. So my server there would not only know his name, which is very common, which will be even practiced in a normal standalone restaurant. But he would actually know exactly what he would order and how he would like his stuff to be made. So these touch points that we have in the hotel, it's again a training need. I again stress on that. It is a training requirement in the hotel. If this is not done, this is not met in a 5-star hotel of this stature, then there's a lack of training there.
You know, there are some, I'd like to add, there are some free tools available. I don't recall them by name right now, but I can get back with those. They're almost free, and a lot of hotels like Starwood and many hotels have been using them. So at every touch point level, you don't need much of training. Even your concierge, the guy, your valet, and all these people. It's an invasion of your privacy, but then everything on the internet is. So I can actually see that Noor is checking in, and as soon as you're coming in for your dinner in the afternoon, my general manager has already spoken to you when you've checked in, and he knows your details. He's given you the right room, smoking, non-smoking, what kind of food you like, protein diet, non-protein, all of that. But once you're coming for a wine in the evening, or you're going to go to the nightclub, or you're going for the spa, the guy, all he has to do is open his iPad, look at your room number, and through and now this is scary, but it's happening. Through all your social media profiles, it will know what kind of wine you like. And that's the first choice that will be asked to you. And you might decline and choose something else, but 90% chances of that guy who is an, semi-literate person serving wine, or semi-literate person picking up from the airport, that guy has information now today. But what I think Anirban correctly said was that the mindset of the hotel owner or the management is such that technology will be latest till the owner's son or the GM or somebody comes to him and says, this is great, and he starts using it and sees it in his own life. That's when the owner brings it to the fore and says, ab mereko bhi ye karna chahiye. By that time, that technology is gone. It's time for the other technology to be
basically invest in technology. That's what you're saying, right? Hotels will have to invest in technology.
Invest in technology is a very tricky thing, because investing in technology, like they again correctly said, once you invest in technology, by the time it's done and tested or second level testing, it's done. So keep some money aside every year to say, this is what we're going to experiment. Right. That's what we say all the time. Keep money aside to experiment with technology. Some things will work, some won't. But if you don't have that money, you're definitely going down.
Yeah, fair enough. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, because there has to be a solution there. But Ravi,
from our domain perspective, generally, all the panelists have spoken about their dining needs or, the other requirements. But if you look at it, essentially what does a guy do post his office? He comes back, checks in, and then, besides taking a shower.
Sorry.
Besides taking a shower and, placing for his food and other stuff, like he said a couple of minutes back, he actually tucks in and tries to enjoy the TV, right? Now here, what we are working on, couple of interesting stuff on this with some of our prestigious clients. What we have done is we have tried to integrate the guest needs of his TV viewing at the time of his check-in. Usually he has a 24-hour, 48-hour advance intimation before, he books the room and he walks in, right? So what we are working on is, you will like to know what kind of TV channels you would like to view, right? So imagine that, somebody comes from, say, down south, some elections or something is going on there, and for business purpose, he lands up in Delhi. But as I said earlier during my presentation, he carries his own ecosystem. While he comes here for business, there is one personal front of him which is trying to get hooked to what's happening at his, hometown. So if I don't offer him that particular television channel, which he is generally used to, like, most of, we are all addicts to some channels or the other, like 9 to 10 could be a CNN, IBN or a Times Now or whatever. And if you don't get that feed at that time, you're completely out of place. So despite the best food, best wine and whatnot, if you don't get that TV feed, then the whole experience goes for a toss. So we are glad that now hotels are accepting this as a very, very integral part of the customer service or experience.
Fair enough.
So we are working very closely on that.
I'm going to request Sanjeev sir to comment on that, but we literally have the last 4 odd minutes left. So I'm going to ask the audience at this point, any questions, anybody? You can either get up. If you already have a question, you can raise your hands. And if you don't, then Sanjeev sir, there is a question. There are 2 questions. All right, so let's take one question from the floor, and then Sanjeev sir, I just want you to kind of add to what he's saying. Can somebody please pass on the mic to the second table, please? And it's reaching you. Actually, I cannot see anything from here. Yes, it's reach. Thank you, Shelly. Thank you so much. If you would please identify yourselves, or just, for the benefit of the panel, and if you're posing it to anyone in particular.
Sure. I'm Vikas Gera. I run a training and consulting company, and we help our clients increase revenue, reduce cost. I just want to, understand your perspective on when you said there's a cutthroat competition between the hotel industry and people just cut down their prices to, kind of just fill in their occupancy. I was just wondering, from a mind of in hotel industry, and then again it goes back to the investment in technology for the Y generation also. Don't you look at these as an opportunity to convert some known users into user, or people who are really not normally stay in your hotel and then can use that opportunity of your less occupancy to stay? And that goes with even investment in technology, trying out new things, more like a pilot or experimentation, or kind of looking at that as a conversion, people who are not to people who want to actually experience something new.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Anybody wants to take that between the hotels? That'll be a good perspective. And then Sanjeev sir, I think, is going for it. Yeah.
See this, as my colleague mentioned, the last minute business or a reduced rate or cutting prices. I recently met a OTA team, and I was surprised to hear a word from them. Earlier we used to call it unused room inventory, which we used to sell on lesser rates or discounted rates. This time I came through a word, he told me, distress inventory. That you can sell your distress inventory on our channel, and you can make money. See, basically this last minute window, it is not the scenario worldwide. It is in the countries or in the cities where there is a disbalance in inventory and in demand and supply. So at that point of time, we can make good use of this last minute inventory also. I will not say distress inventory, but last minute inventory, there is no harm in using that. You can have more customers. Maybe that customer can become a repeat customer for your hotel for future. Or these type of customers who are shopping more on online. Our research, what we have done is, they are the highest users of hotels' other facilities. They are just negotiating, they are just bargaining on room rate only, shopping on room rate, but they are the highest users of other facilities of the hotel. So there is no harm in that. What I think is, it's my opinion.
Fair enough.
I would like to add on this. What happens, just to answer your question, and just to adding on what Mr. Bhatia mentioned, there's a hotel positioning also which has to be kept in mind when you're offering a rate. So what the hotels are doing these days, it used to happen before also, they come up with package deals. Okay, so the rate is not disclosed to the guest. He might get a couple of offerings, like it could be a room inclusive of the airfare, or it could be a room inclusive of dinner, a meal, major meal. So they come up with package deals wherein the rate is not disclosed. So it is always better, as Mr. Bhatia also said, there is no harm in getting that extra piece of business for the hotel, but one has to also keep in mind the positioning of the hotel, which should not get disturbed while you pick up this business.
All right, fair enough. We literally have a few more minutes, so I'm going to allow more questions. In fact, 2 more on the front table. So can we get the mics here? We will just pretty much wrap up with the questions in that case, short on time now.
Ajay Khanna from Eagle Forgings. I've been supplying equipment to hotels for 3 decades, and that gets me to travel to a lot of good hotels across the world, including India. I have a comment and I have a question. Comment is, I definitely want the hotel to be hugely different to my house. I want it to be over the top, and I want to enjoy something that I don't get at home. So from that perspective, I want the pool to be bigger, the bed to be softer, etc., etc. So really, home away from home doesn't work for me or for a lot of people who are looking for an experience in a hotel. Regarding the technology, yes, it's very important to have guest profiling, but it's getting a little intrusive. Sometimes you walk in and the guy says, "Hello, Mr. Khanna, will you have your Bacardi?" And I really don't want a lot of people to know what I do or what I drink. So maybe if a guest comes in and says, He says, good evening, sir. Sir, would you like your usual? Or I say, can you get me my usual? Then the tea must come with, or the Bacardi must come with what the guy has on my profile. But I feel technology is getting very intrusive, and a lot of people who visit hotels don't want the whole world, or at least people who they don't want to know what they do, what they drink, what they eat, and sometimes it's embarrassing. You know, you want to be a little left alone. So technology is extremely important, but I think a gentleman here mentioned to me, it should work in the back end and be ready to work in the front end should the guest require it.
That's like highly sophisticated, right? Yeah. So no question there exactly, but there was a comment there. But let's just get a sense to that. He's saying it's intrusive, work better at the back end, and just get ready when you have to.
No, it is a question. It's if the guest says, yes, I'd like my normal tea, then the hotel should, or the coffee shop who I visit, should have my profile ready. But it shouldn't be shoved into my face. That was my question.
Yeah. So,
in our terminology, I mean, in our industry, what we say is, what fine art of hospitality is, the service has to be personalized, but it cannot be obtrusive. It applies to both digital and non-digital interferences. So I think the hoteliers, first of all, know where to draw a line, or expected to know where to draw a line. And that's what the fine art of hospitality is all about. I mean, how much should I use technology to kind of make the service personalized is up to the hotel to decide, so that it really doesn't make it obtrusive.
It would be necessary in the back end, because if my guest profile should be there, should I need it. So technology is great to have.
That will be updated in your profile that you don't want that people should approach you with a Bacardi. So it will be updated there, because every guest is different. Yeah. So some people get a high if they are accompanying 5 people and they are recognized and they are offered their drink without even. So it will be updated in your profile. That again, training need in case it has happened to you in some other hotel. So that again a training need is which can be identified over here, and can be your profile is updated accordingly so that nobody approaches you.
But you know, if you're talking about being intrusive or not, whatever cell phone you're using, from a BlackBerry to an HTC or iPhone, it's as soon as you put the phone on, you've already accepted and given your data to the entire world, and they can use it towards multiple platforms. So everybody in this room who's using a smartphone has already signed up to say that yes, please go ahead and get into my life and learn from what I'm doing. Number one. Number two, depending on where you're going, what sites today, if you're getting served a hotel ad or a direct OTA ad, they're looking at where you're going. So even if your Google Calendar, in your Google Calendar, part of Gmail, part of Google, if you're putting in holiday, if you're blocking in a date for a holiday, you start getting holiday dates. And if you're sharing it with your wife, she'll start getting shopping, and she, maybe if you're going for a beach destination, you say beach wear. So it's as intrusive as that. So marketing has already reached that level. Yeah. So unless hotels make their own technology, the technology providers which are coming to the hotels are going to come with ready-made technology, which is going to be intrusive. But I like Rajat's point to say that maybe they should have an option to say shut it off and treat me old school and treat me like a new guest. So that's not a bad
probably
idea.
That's also the difference between hospitality and things like programmatic and all, right?
So that's a good,
the finesse needs to come in a hospitality business.
Finesse needs to come in, but at the same time, you heard about few weeks back, there's been a thing on how Japan, there's one hotel which is running only on robots.
Yeah.
So, and that's just one pilot project. So,
I think we must get used to the fact that everything that we are doing today, we are leaving our digital footprints. Yeah. So we have to get used to that fact slowly. I mean, we are getting used to it. And as I shared that, it's the fine art of hospitality where to draw a line and not cross that line.
Correct. Absolutely. So great point there as well. Final cue or comment from Mr. Salil Kapoor.
So my name is Salil Kapoor, and I have a question for the panel. You guys are experts in creating all the revenue streams for your businesses. Yours is a very competitive industry, and bottom line is always under pressure, and the payback period is pretty long. you can have as many, you would love to have as many revenue streams as you can. Have you ever thought that TV in the room can also become a revenue stream for you? Because unlike what happens in other countries, here in India we offer all the channels, all the stuff free of cost to the guest. So have you ever thought that it can be limited and you can have rest of the stuff as a la carte sales or something like that? Have you ever thought of this?
Many hotels are doing it. Right now, as I mentioned in my discussion earlier also, this is right now it's a consumer's market. Okay, the demand is out, the supply is too much. So people can just pick and choose. So we cannot be dictating, yeah, but eventually I feel, yes, we will be eventually graduating to that wherein we'll be also selling channels, selling TV channels. That can become a revenue generating for the hotel.
Like
We have the lady here just to kind of say that people. So Anirban, you can of course make your point and then we are, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it applies to the Japanese guests specifically. When they come to India, they generally prefer to have a few Japanese channels, and more than not, they can't provide with that request. So I think there is an opportunity to kind of create that revenue stream.
Today, if you look at it, TV is actually a cost center for them. So, but then there is an opportunity where you can actually
Monetize
shift it into a profit center.
Fair enough. So I know that, we can go on talking, but we have really consumed our time. Thank you all for your questions, your comments. One really, really loud round of applause for this fantastic panel.